Coming out. I appreciate everybody being here. My name is John Rose. As many of you guys know, I'm running for Athens County Commissioner, but today is not about me. This has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with the mismanagement of Athens County EMS, which is the whole reason that I got into this race to begin with. And the mismanagement is by the hands of the Athens County Commissioners. I can't even start to explain how mismanaged it's going to be, how much mismanaged it is. It's endangering the community as a whole. It's endangering the employees who are currently working there. There's even been lifelong damage to the people who formerly worked for Athens County EMS. What prompted this is 2 weeks ago. My opponent, Charlie Adkins, went to the Athens Democratic dinner and stated that everything was fine with Athens County EMS. There were no real issues. Pay was okay. Wages were okay. Everybody was happy. Those are blatant lies. And his lies, they have to stop. They absolutely have to stop. And the community needs to know the dire straits that are happening at Athens County EMS. Before we go into details, I need to make one thing abundantly clear. This mismanagement has nothing to do with the chief and the assistant chief at Athens County EMS. They are doing everything in their power to make Athens County EMS the best place to work for the best practitioners. They are doing their damnedest. Their hands are tied. The hardworking people that work there, they have nothing to do with this either. They are stuck between a rock and a hard place, and we need to make things different. The blame lies solely with Charlie Adkins. He has told that he is Mr. 911. He is in charge of the 911 system, but when the 911 system is failing, and he continues to say that it's not, then we have some serious, serious problems, and they need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed now. Also with Lenny Eliason, who votes in step with Charlie Adkins every step of the way. It's a 2-to-1 situation. They're always going to win, and Athens County EMS is going to be in the same space it is now forever unless we do something about it. Athens County EMS is at a breaking point. Medics and EMTs are leaving in droves because of the low wages. They cannot afford to live here and work here and save lives all at the same time. Also with the forced overtime. And when I mean forced overtime, I mean forced overtime after a 24-hour shift. So if you show up to work at 8 a.m., you're going to work till 8 a.m. the next day. If somebody doesn't come in for their shift, or they call off, or they take a sick day, or God forbid they have a vacation, and since staffing is so low, they're mandating for an extra 12 hours after that 24-hour shift, which means that these people are working 36 hours straight. Again, working below the federal poverty line. We were supposed to be joined by a whole bunch of current EMS employees. However, we sent out a confidential media release, and it was erroneously published in one of the local papers. So, to not jeopardize their safety or their employment, I asked them not to join us. I asked them to stay at work, stay at home. Please don't come here. I don't want them to lose their jobs. The jobs that I'm fighting to keep, fighting to save, they shouldn't put those at risk. So, I asked for them to send letters, and they sent a bunch of letters, anonymously. We're going to be reading those letters here pretty soon. From current and former employees to say that the problems that we're going to be addressing have been going on for years and years. This isn't a current thing, last couple of few months. This has been going on for a long, long time, and it needs to change, and it needs to change now. Because if it doesn't, there's going to be huge consequences for the community, for EMS personnel as a whole. Our lives, your lives, everybody's lives are literally in the balance right now. I'm not trying to sound grandiose, I'm not trying to blow things out of proportion. This is a huge deal. If it wasn't a huge deal, I wouldn't be standing here on a corner with a microphone and a speaker yelling. Things have to change. They absolutely have to change. The fact that they're so afraid of losing their jobs that they didn't want to come, and they're even protected by the union, just goes to show how big of a bully my opponent really is. There was an article published of me calling him a bully, and then him saying that I was whining. Okay, that's fine. But if whining is standing up for what's right and shouting from the rooftops and saying things need to change, I'm going to whine. I'm going to continue to whine until things get done. As you can probably imagine, I've dealt with bullies before. I'm a music nerd, I'm chubby, I'm goofy, I've been bullied. But I've also stood up for people who are being bullied because it's the right freaking thing to do. It's how I was raised, it's how I raised my kids. Stand up for those who need the most help, the most vulnerable. So it's not just me that's going to be talking about these issues. I'm joined by Rick Trask. Now, Rick was a full-time paramedic with Athens County for a long time. Not only that, he was the former president of the union, the IAFF Local 5126. That is the union that we formed in order to raise wages for Athens County. He took his free time, personal sacrifices in order to become the union president to fight on our behalf. So please join me in welcoming Rick Trask.
Hello everyone, my name is Rick Trask and I am the former president of IAFF Local 5126. I was the president for about 4 years and vice president before that. The reason we formed a union in Athens County in the first place in 2017 was because of the low wages in Athens County. And we were told then by our former chief when he went to the commissioners to get us our 3% raise that year. There was a handful of us that would go above and beyond. We would make sure trucks weren't shut down. We would come in at a moment's notice when someone needed to go home sick. And the chief asked the Board of Commission at that time if he could give a little bit extra to those who did that above and beyond work all the time. And the comment was made to him by one of the commissioners that he needed to figure who he was going to take the 3% away from to give it to the other people that were doing that work. Prior to that, I was not for a union. And I've been a member of several unions through my career. But when that comment came out of this office behind us, I was done. We needed to form a union. And we have fought now since 2017 to do nothing but improve the wages. And at every turn, we're given excuses or reasons. And one of those reasons, I don't know how many of you know this, but the commissioners take $185,000 a year out of the EMS's working budget to pay for 911 to dispatch us. Now for me, that's just bizarre that you're taking money out of this pocket and sticking it in this pocket, and you're crippling this agency when you have an agency over here whose operating budget is very well off. They're building a beautiful complex up in the plains for 911. We've had tax levy after tax levy. You all have seen them on the ballot. And thank you for voting yes for the EMS levies, and thank you for voting for the 911 levy. But why are we taking money out of a crippled budget to put into a budget? They told us at one point it was for an extra dispatcher. Prior to Athens County becoming Athens County 911 away from ACEMS, when ACEMS folded several years ago, there were 3 dispatchers that worked in this office. Today there are still 3 dispatchers that work in this office. So where's this dispatcher we're paying for? Another, feels like to me, a lie coming from the commissioners. Now, we have done a little bit better with our wages through the years, but it's nowhere near good enough. The last contract negotiation, we asked for a little more. They gave us 11%. Now you think to yourself, 11% is an awesome raise. And 11% was a nice raise. However, the cost of living the last 3 years in this country, I did the math during negotiations because I was curious. We got the final 2 years of the previous contract, we got 3%, 3%, and then the first year of this one, they gave us 11, so 17%. Pretty good raise, right? The cost of living over that same 3 years went up 17.9% when you add it all together. So we're actually still losing money. I work in this county. I've taken care of patients in this county for 33 years now. And during that time, I've had my electric shut off. I've had hardly any groceries in my house. But yet I got up and I went to work every day. I've worked 3 and 4 jobs at a time to make ends meet. After 33 years of work in this county, take a guess. Somebody throw out a number. How much money do you think I make on the hour working for Athens County 911? Would you believe it's $19.91? When I can do everything more than a lot of people in the hospital can do, they're going to take care of you. I am the doctor. I am the nurse. I am registration. And when it's all over with, I'm the janitor that has to clean up the mess. I'm by myself in the back of that truck doing the job of what 7 or 8 people are going to do in the EO. and I'm not worth $20 an hour after 33 years of service? That's ridiculous, folks. It really is. Those are the two subjects mainly that I could think of right off the top. I could go on for hours, but those ones I have facts to back up. The rest of the stuff I haven't done enough of the research to back up the facts, but I can tell you that I chose to move on from Athens County EMS full-time. I'm here part-time. I work every once in a while, help cover some shifts when people need off. But I went an hour up the road to Columbus and didn't just get a little bit of a raise. I doubled my salary. And I only work 84 hours of pay as opposed to a rotating 24 on, 24 off, which makes it so your full-time employees in this county work 3,000 hours a year. So you think a full-time job is 2,080 hours. These guys are working an extra 1,000 hours a year, and that's before the mandations start rolling in. There's a few medics in this county that have been mandated 3 and 4 shifts in a row because of the lack of employees we have working here. So when you're told everything's okay in 911, and well, it might be at 911, I don't know much about them. When you're told everything's okay in EMS, it is not. And again, this is nothing on the chief or the assistant chief. They're doing a fabulous job with what they have, but when they stand there with the vault locked shut and not give us any help, it's hard to do a much better job than what we're doing. But we do have a great group of employees doing a good job. So that's about all I got. Thanks for your time. Back to John.
Thanks, sir.
Yep.
I have several letters.
Louder than him.
I don't want to break any eardrums. I have several letters that were written, again, anonymously, by current employees, simply out of fear for losing their jobs. Union protected jobs, critical jobs. They're still afraid of losing them for speaking out and saying what's actually wrong. I'm a current employee at Athens County EMS. And while I planned on being here today, like so many others, the very real risk of retaliation by the current commissioners has made me reluctant to publicly call out Atkins. While I could go serve coffee or drive for Amazon or UPS and work shorter hours, see less trauma and death, and still make more money, I genuinely love serving my community as a paramedic. I don't want to lose that. However, the way the commissioners are running our EMS program puts that goal in jeopardy. Everything John Rose has stated about the commissioners and about Atkins in particular is true. Our pay, our equipment, our staffing, all of it. We take roughly 1,000 calls a month, and yet the current commissioners don't treat us like a service that they need. Athens is the poorest county in Ohio. This means that for many people, preventative and regular medical care is out of reach, leaving them to rely on EMS system and the ER. The cost of housing is uncontrolled. At my current pay, finding a place to live in the same city I work is almost impossible. It seems Atkins wants me to give my labor, my time, and my service to Athens, but does not want to pay me a wage that would allow me to live here. We have had the wheels literally fall off of 2 of our ambulances. The other trucks are consistently having mechanical problems and going back to the shop again and again when there should just be replaced. We need new trucks, we need new equipment before someone gets hurt. We get up in the middle of the night for you. We've missed birthdays and holidays. We've held the hands of your hurt and dying loved ones. We've injured ourselves and broken our bodies to pull you out of danger. We've soothed your pain, saved your lives, bandaged your wounds, and every single time you called, we have showed up. Now, we need someone to show up for us. Another letter. I'm single with no children. I live in a family-owned home, so I don't have the burden of monthly rent. Just property tax, your usual utilities, a car payment under $300 a month. I like to think I live within my means, yet I still find myself living paycheck to paycheck. This job is not a, quote, summertime job for me. This is my career. Yet I have friends who work what would be considered, quote, high school jobs or, quote, summer jobs that make more than I do. My response when people are shocked by how little I make, I tell them, it isn't a get-rich career. You really have to love the work. But should we really accept that? Another letter. My comments are that smaller poor county EMS agencies are paying as much or more than we are. We take extraordinarily more calls than the other counties. This is the reason that many have left. Also, the commissioners refuse to enact any sort of a seniority pay. New hires with no experience make nearly as much as those with 10, 20, or 30 plus years of experience. Those who have sacrificed and stayed, even after taking a pay cut when we went from ACEMS to county, are working more than 12 hours. And studies show that this is dangerous, let alone the 24 to 36-hour shifts. They also received a recognition yesterday or the day before. The team that was on there, 2 of the folks on that team of 4 already left for higher wages. And that wasn't very long ago. Another anonymous letter. Hello, I'm a current employee at Athens County EMS. I've been working full-time here for over 20 years and I'm just now making $20 an hour. When we switched over from ACEMS to Athens County, everyone took a $1 pay cut to transition over. It wasn't until we formed a union that we started to get the pay raise yearly. We have lost a lot of great employees due to the pay at Athens County EMS. We have all went to other companies who pay more and they don't have to work the hours. They have to work at Athens County in order to make ends meet. They don't have to work 2 to 3 other jobs just to make sure they can pay their bills and take care of their families. Athens County EMS is so short-staffed that they have to mandate employees to work over their scheduled hours just to make sure trucks are kept on the road and take care of the community members they serve. It is not safe at times for employees to work 36 hours before going to home, especially when they have to run 8 or more calls in a 24-hour shift. As many calls in Athens County runs a year, or even on scheduled shift daily, we should be trying to add trucks to our county, but instead we're shutting trucks down and running just basic light support trucks. Athens County EMS has a lot of great people and it's a great place to work, but the pay has to be fixed and brought up to a livable wage so that people want to work there. I hope that you all will see this as a problem and try to help what needs to be done to fix this problem. Another anonymous letter. Due to the low pay, we're having trouble retaining employees at Athens County. We have adjacent counties paying more than we do and private EMS paying way more. Most of us work 2 to 3 jobs just to be able to afford to live. Athens County is so short-staffed due to people leaving or just not wanting to work with us due to our wages. Staff gets mandated all the time to work. A 24-hour shift turns into a 36-hour shift to make sure that the trucks are staffed. There are also times when we're shutting down trucks or just running EMT basic life support trucks. With our call volume, again, we should be adding trucks and not shutting them down. This has nothing to do with our chief or assistant chief. They are both great people who work for and do what they can, but many times their hands are tied. Here's a former employee. Those were all current employees. Hello, my name is Marissa Marshall. I'm a former paramedic of the Athens County EMS. I started my EMS journey back in 2008, became a paramedic in 2014. In the last 16 years, I've worked for multiple private EMS agencies, Ohio Health as a paramedic in the ER, critical care as a flight paramedic with MedFlight, and multiple 911 county agencies. I started with Athens County EMS back in 2020 or 2021, and I worked full-time until I quit this past June. I loved Athens County. I made some amazing friends like John, and I learned so much in my few years there. I believe Athens County is one of the most progressive and admirable protocols of anywhere I've worked. I left mainly because of the pay. As a full-time paramedic with 15 years of experience, I was making just over $18 an hour. After taxes and insurance, my take-home pay was between $1,100 and $1,700 every 2 weeks, depending on if it was a short pay or a long pay. I left because I couldn't justify driving to Athens to work an average of 56 hours a week and still barely be able to feed my kids. I left for a private EMS company, working the same amount of hours, paying me $28.50 starting out. My bring-home pay is now almost double what it was at Athens County EMS. The pay was a driving force in me leaving Athens County EMS, but not the only reason. Mandations are never fun, but I do understand they are necessary as to not leave the county without paramedic EMS coverage. But when the mandations get so bad that you're getting mandated multiple times a month, it gets very exhausting mentally. We are already working 48 or 72 hours every week. Adding 12 on top of that is hard. Mixing extra time with family and your home is hard. If ACEMS would have paid more, I would have stayed. If they would increase their pay significantly, I would consider returning. They need to figure out a way to hire more people and retain those people. Athens has so much to offer, but I don't think a single person in this profession is doing the job to get rich. But I don't think wanting to be able to support a family while giving up 48 to 72 hours a week minimum is asking too much. Last anonymous letter from a former employee. I quit because of low pay and mandations. I loved my job. My family got food stamps while I worked there, and we needed them because we were so broke. I was getting mandated to stay and work extra at least once a week, to stay 12 extra hours. That 12 hours was a whole day to my kids because they would be in bed by the time I got home. It got to the point where I was breaking promises to my kids all the time, missing parties, events, holidays on my supposed days off. I just couldn't do it anymore. My kids were going to grow up thinking I was gone all the time because I didn't care about them, but it's because I didn't have a choice. I'd rather flip burgers at McDonald's than miss them growing up. These are real letters from people who worked or are currently working at Athens County EMS. It's a shame. It's an absolute shame. We need to talk about financial mismanagement of Athens County. Athens County EMS was forced to take out a loan to pay for a couple ambulances. These ambulances were signed off by the commissioner's office. The loan was for about $500,000 for 2 squads. That loan was from a bank. The loan had interest. That interest was paid off by taxpayers. It was paid off by the billing. That money could have came from the general fund. That money could have come from a loan from the general fund that the commissioner said, hey, you need to pay back for 0% interest, but it wasn't. They forced Athens County EMS to take a loan out from a bank and pay interest on top of, so that they could pay to buy the squads, or they also had enough money to pay payroll. So they either broke a contract that didn't buy the squads, what they were contractually obligated to do, or they just didn't pay payroll, or they didn't buy equipment, or they didn't buy anything else necessary for the county in order to save lives. So what are you going to do? Somebody's going to force you to take out a loan? They're your boss. Kind of what you got to do, right? Again, back to the 11% raise. Charlie loves to pat himself on the back and say, hey, look what I did. Attaboy me. I gave him 11%. Again, with cost of inflation, they lost money. And if you're making nothing, 11% of nothing is still nothing. Athens County EMS is forced to pay for a maintenance worker that is employed by the county. The EMS is in county buildings, should be maintained by county staff. Yet, if we were to call because the toilet were to break, they're going to send out a county employee to come fix it. But that county, they send a bill to Athens County EMS in order to pay that person, even though they work for the county. So they're double dipping. They're taking money out of the EMS fund to pay the county for a county building, and they also bill them for supplies that are paid for by the county. COVID was a real thing. It was crazy. It was a crazy time to be alive. It was a crazy time to work in EMS. It was just insane. The county got money, about $20 million from ARPA funds. That money was supposed to be used for any multitude of things. That money was not used to help Athens County EMS. 911 got bonuses, Sheriff's Department got bonuses, Athens County EMS did not. Until I left in May of 2022, I got pissed, I put a letter in the paper. Put a letter in the paper calling them out, saying, hey, you wanna know what's really happening? Read this is what's really happening. And then commissioners acted shocked. They didn't know anything was wrong. They didn't know EMS didn't get any sort of bonus, so they gave them a little bit. Sheriff's office got bonuses, 911 dispatchers got bonuses. EMS, the people you call when you're sick with COVID, we got nothing. Until I made a public stink about it. They lost face, so they backtracked. Medics make $17 an hour. 7 years as a union to get up to that amount of money. Working 24-hour shifts, mandatory overtime, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible. If you're staying up for 36 hours straight, sometimes that person's the one that's driving your loved one to the hospital. That's the person that's starting IVs in the back of a squad, calculating the correct medicines, diagnosing the correct cardiac event that your loved one is having so they don't die. We're not worth more than $17 an hour, and we're also forced to work 36 hours straight at times. This is absolutely reckless. This is absolutely dangerous. And this absolutely has to stop, and it has to stop now. There are currently 6 full-time jobs available at Athens County EMS. They keep interviewing, but nobody wants to take them simply because they can't afford to take them. Why would they? Why would they take them? If they can work at Vinton County EMS, which is a neighboring county, and make $20 an hour starting out, plus they pay for their insurance. Athens County insurance is $546 a month. If you're an EMT basic and you're starting out at $14.55 an hour, you can't afford the insurance here. Heck no. So some of them are still collecting social benefits. Athens County dispatchers start out at 22 bucks an hour. They do an incredible job, they have hard work, but they're safe inside of a building the majority of the times. They are my friends. They've helped me out in situations when I needed, but they send us out into situations where we are quite literally risking our lives. So what do when they decided, hey, these things are getting crazy, we need to help. We need some solutions. So these were their solutions they came up with. One, we're gonna start mandating the captains and lieutenants who weren't mandated up to this point. They're fed up. They talked about resigning. They approached the chief and the assistant chief and said, hey, listen, we can't do this. It's not right. They brought it up to the commissioner and said, hey, they're threatening to resign. They don't care. Two, they started running basic life support ambulances. Now what that means is that most ambulances in the county are staffed with a paramedic. Paramedic, again, we can start IVs, we can diagnose cardiac rhythms, we can intubate, we can do a whole slew of things that nurses can't do, all while in the back of an ambulance or in the ditch or in your living room. If you're just running a basic life support truck, there are going to be interventions that are critically necessary that will not be able to be performed simply because the EMT basic cannot do it. Not because they don't want to, because they cannot. They're not trained to do it. So if you're driving around in a squad that says paramedic on the side and you can't do paramedic-y stuff, that's a lie. The third solution was we're going to start running fewer trucks. We're just going to shut down trucks in the county. So instead of running 6 trucks, we're going to run 5 trucks. And then we're going to make the people who are working their 24 or 36-hour shift take more runs, because that's responsible, that's safe. Way to go, guys. How can we solve the problem? Let's pay them. Let's pay them an actual living wage. Why not? Why not? Who's it going to hurt? It's going to hurt nobody. It's going to help. It's going to help with staffing. It's going to help with their well-being, their mental, their physical, their families, everybody. Working for Athens County EMS and making 17 bucks an hour, you cannot raise a family on 17 bucks an hour. I make $18 an hour working at a coffee shop. Slinging coffee, I make more per hour than I did as a full-time charge medic for the county. That's sinful. That is sinful. Multiple 20-plus year employees for Athens County EMS are just now making $20 an hour after being there for over 20 years. Rick said he's been serving as a paramedic for over 30 years, and he didn't even hit that $20 an hour benchmark. If you want to talk about run volume, Canal Winchester does about the same amount of runs we do. They make 31 bucks an hour. Free pension, free health insurance. They're pulling in about $100,000 a year. We're pulling in about 48 to 52. That's just numbers. Math doesn't lie. If Charlie Adkins can make this make sense, if he can come down here right now and say, hey, this is why this makes sense, I will drop out of the race. I will drop out of the race right now. If Charlie's like, yep, this is why this makes sense, and everybody in EMS can agree, I'm done. I will throw in my hat. But you can't. You cannot make this make sense. You haven't been able to make it make sense for 12 years. You cannot make it make sense now. I'm sorry, Charlie. It is time for you to step down. It's time for new, fresh blood. It's time for new, fresh perspectives. It's time for somebody who actually cares about the county to do something about the county. In my media alert, I stated I would cover dangerous to workers, patients, the community as a whole. I'm going to go through some of those right now. Mental and emotional health of the workers, the exhaustion of the workers, depression, burnout are all real things. Back to the workers, the physical health deterioration and the potential for medical miscalculations, lawsuits, the loss of career, jail times, injuries, wrecks. If you get in a wreck in an ambulance, you can be held liable for that. If somebody hurts, you can be thrown in jail. These are real stories. If you look them up, it has happened to great paramedics in the country. Dangers to the patients. Potential for medical miscalculations due to lack of sleep, potential for misdiagnoses, potential for wrecks, potential for only basic life support, and increased time to wait for a squad because there's nobody there. I've been sounding the alarm since 2022. I've been yelling from the rooftops for the last 2 years, and nothing is getting done. And nothing is going to change until we change it from the inside. If you want an ambulance to show up when your loved one is dying, if you want an ambulance to show up when your loved one is hurt, we need to fix this problem now. Not later, now. Because later is going to be too late. Thank you.